All right, Jeff Zimmerman here with the Hall of Fame referee, Richard Steele. How you doing, Richard?
I'm doing great.
Man, every time we turn around, there's a big anniversary of one of your legendary fights. On this date, 34 years ago, Meldrick Taylor versus Julio Cesar Chavez. One of the most controversial fights of all time. What are your thoughts on that fight?
Well, it's controversial because it was one of the greatest fights of all time. It was a great fight with two great fighters.
Yeah, Richard, and it seems like every time this fight comes around, everyone has an opinion on it. 2 seconds left, but before we get into the stoppage, there was a whole fight that took place. What do you recall from that fight?
Well, it was a big fight all over the world, and everybody was excited. Everybody was very happy to get the fight. It took a long time to put the fight together, but once they got it together, everybody was tuned in to see the fight, and everybody wanted that fight because they had their favorite, they had their favorites for whatever reason. You had two great fights. I mean, Meldrick Taylor was a great young man, great fighter, and he displayed it through all his amateur career, with the Olympics and everything. When you got Julio Cesar Chavez, was a great fighter and really had this place himself as one of the world's greatest champions.
Now you're in the ring in that fight, and you're the third man in the ring. And when you're watching the fight from the outside, Taylor is boxing his socks off.
Yes, he is.
And then the tide starts to turn. Talk about being in there and just witnessing right in front of you what's going on.
Well, as you said, Taylor was boxing beautiful. He was moving, punching. He was throwing a lot of punches, and moving at the same time. Julio Cesar Chavez couldn't catch up with him. But when he did catch up with him, he would hurt him every time with those hard punches, and that is what really turned the fight around. He took so many hard punches, so many devastating, right hands and the body, everything. He was fighting as a pro, and and winning the fight really, but everybody's seen this young fast guy throwing a lot of punches, moving, looking beautiful, so they had him ahead, which he was at the beginning of the fight. But then Julio Cesar Chavez started taking over with all those hard punches and, devastating punches. He was really hurting the young man and really hitting him to the body and breaking up, bones and everything. The guy was really a great fighter.
And when you're in the fight like that, Richard, can you sense it? I mean, you can hear those punches, you can feel it.
Yes, I can see it, I can feel it, but I don't really know how much damage it's really doing until it happens, and I could see it, and I know it's hurting him. I know it's, really devastating punches, so much blood, internal blood, the kid was swallowing blood, and because all of it in his mouth was busted up, and his ribs and everything. Julio Cesar Chavez, he fought as a real pro, where Meldrick Taylor fight as a golden, as he won the gold medal in the Olympics, fighting as a wonderful pro. I mean, a wonderful amateur.
Yeah, and Richard, take us back to the final round. Now, obviously, you don't know, there's no open scoring, but as it was, Taylor was winning 2 out of the 3 rounds, or winning on the scorecards from 2 of the judges. So, if he kind of stays away from Chavez that last round, he wins the fight. What do you remember?
The fight. He wins the fight all the way to the point when he gets dropped, he gets knocked down, and he pulls himself up, and he was winning the fight. And I asked him several times, "Are you all right? Are you all right? Are you okay?" And he could not answer me. And that's when he lost the fight. He was winning the fight up to that point.
Now, there's some, I saw it on social media today, and again, you have your boxing, pundits, you have the fans. Some people would say, Richard, 2 seconds left. Let the fight play out. You stole his glory. Meldrick Taylor's glory. How do you respond?
When you say "let," the word "let," that means that I'm giving him something. That's what makes me know that I done the right thing, because I don't supposed to let nothing happen but whatever the 2 fighters display. I don't supposed to interfere with the decision by letting him last the 2 seconds, because I would have been cheating.
So even if Chavez could not get a punch off, that has nothing to do with you making that decision.
No. Once he could not answer me, once he couldn't answer me, I knew that he was very hurt, and the fight is over with, because that is the object of the fight, to get your opponent in a position where he don't know where he's at, where he's hurt, and the fight is over with.
Now, I read today from some prominent boxing voices on the internet and back in your ear, but I don't want to mention their names, but one of them said that you didn't follow protocol, that you should have let Taylor walk towards you.
Yeah, I should have. See, that word "should have," that's when you're doing the wrong thing. No, it wasn't that I supposed to let him. He's supposed to answer my commands when I asked him, "Are you okay?" He never answered. He couldn't answer, because the doctors explained to me after he was released from the hospital that he couldn't talk at the time. He didn't know where he was.
What about, and again, I'm just going off. I want to set the record straight for all these fans that, always have something to say, or boxing pundits. What about Chavez being out of the neutral corner? Does that come into play?
No. So if they're looking for reason to let the fight continue, you're really looking for a reason to get this kid hurt permanently, because he was already hurt, didn't know where he was at, bleeding inside, outside. So the fight should be stopped. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard you answer this question before. And, you know, we're all about conspiracies nowadays. Some people say you were in Don King's back pocket and Chavez was his golden boy.
Yeah, no. Don King was a great promoter, but him and I, we had never had lunch, dinner, or nothing, drink, nothing. We had never had a real lengthy conversation together. All the years that I worked for him, you know, it was a great promoter, but Don King had nothing to do with my decision that night or any other night.
So when a fighter is done, a fighter is done.
He's done. He's done, you know. And it really, you know, when you really look at it the way that you're supposed to, you know, Julio Cesar Chavez proved that he was the greatest fighter. He was a greater fighter than Meldrick Taylor.
Yeah, yeah. You know, Richard, this fight will live on forever, as you know, and I'm sure you're getting calls about it as we sit here. But what a fight it was, though.
It was a great fight. The right guy won, and as they, you know, what made it, because what, 30, how many years?
34 years ago.
34 years ago. That's why people are still talking about it, because it was such a great fight. It was such a great fight because you had two great fighters fighting, trying to win, and putting everything on the line. And I let them fight, give the fans what they wanted, and they got what they wanted.
Yeah, and I will say, for the record, Richard, it seems like as the years have gone by, that more people, you know, seem to think it was the right call. You know, one more punch, or, you know, what have you. But I think to hear you answer all the naysayers or explain the different. Well, let me ask you one more question, though, because this is something that gets brought up from time to time. The blinking red light. Now, when you're a referee, time makes no difference. But what is that blinking red light supposed to mean?
That you got 10 seconds. That's all. You know how many punches you can throw in 10 seconds? You know, I wouldn't be looking at no blinking red light, or letting, in my own mind thinking, oh, I got 10 seconds. So if I'm thinking that way, I'm cheating for the fighter. Oh, he only have 10 seconds, he can last 10 seconds. No.
When a fighter's done, he's done.
He's done.
So, Richard, 34 years ago, legendary career.
It was a wonderful fight. Wonderful fight.
Where does that rank of all the great fights?
Number one. It was number one.
Over
Yeah.
Howler Hearns?
Yeah, it was more action. It lasted longer. Hagler Hearn was a great fight, but it was only 3 rounds.
The 3 best ever, some would argue. Yeah, you definitely had some classics. You just celebrated your 80th birthday. You've seen it all in this sport. How you feeling overall?
I feel great. I feel great about my career. I feel great about the sport of boxing. You know, I have a boxing gym for kids now, and I feel great because I'm still involved, you know, taking all the knowledge that I have. I'm displaying it to the young kids I have at my gym. I have over 60 kids, you know, and so I feel great about my career. feel great about life, and I feel great that I'm 80 years old.
Yeah, you don't look a day past 79.
Oh yeah, right.
You're also managing a fighter, undefeated super
Managing
middleweight.
managing a great super middleweight fighter. You know, uh, he's 17-0 with 14 knockouts. You know, uh, he's a great fighter, and all he's have to do is just keep doing what we ask. His name is Lester Martinez. Lester Martinez, I'm telling you, he's something to see, and hopefully keep going like he's going. Everybody will get a chance to see that he is a great fighter.
Now he's working with being trained by Bomac, Team Crawford. What is it like working with Bomac and the Crawford team?
I tell you, that team is a great team. They work together. 3 great coaches. They all work together, and they all know their job, and they do their job. And when the 2 hours of training is over with, everybody's tired. Everybody know that they have went through a training, because all 3 of them, they really push the young guys hard. Bomac, not a lot of knowledge, has a lot of knowledge, and he gives it all to those young fighters. I have seen the difference between Lester over the months. Each month I could see that he's growing. Each fight I could see he's improving because of the training that the Bomac team is giving this young guy, and it makes a difference.
Yeah, and you've been in camp with Crawford, Richard, and you refereed. We talked about Hagler Hearns a little bit, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, the 4 Kings. How does Crawford, from what you've seen in the gym and then also just in his fights, what he did against Spence, how does he compare to those guys?
Crawford is up there with them. Crawford is a great fighter, and all he needs is other great fighters to come and challenge him and let him display his talent, because the guy, he's a great fighter, great puncher, great boxer, very smart. Crawford is a very smart fighter, and I'm glad to be in his training camp, because I get a chance to see it, and I get a chance to that my fighter that I'm managing get a chance to see the greatness and learn from him.
You said it's some of the hardest workouts you've seen. Crawford does. It's some of the hardest workouts you've ever seen.
Yes, it is. It is. Really. Like I say, he's got 3 trainers that he goes from one to the other to the other. I mean, they really push him. I mean, really, it's one of the hardest training that I've ever seen.
Wow. And you've seen.
That's why he is great as he is, because of his Bomac training camp.
And you've seen it all too.
Oh yes.
And we'll wrap up here in a second here with Hall of Fame referee Richard Steele, just reminiscing about his classic fight, Meldrick Taylor Chavez, back in March 1990, 34 years ago today. Hard to believe. Richard, so another guy that you're tight with, did a lot of his fights, Mike Tyson, is fighting a former YouTube Disney kid who's taken this boxing sport seriously. He's been doing a lot of, good things for the sport, for especially women's boxing. Jake Paul. When you heard Iron Mike gonna face Jake Paul here in Texas, in my backyard, July 20th, what were your thoughts?
Well, they say that they have a lot of stipulations, a lot of rules in this. I don't think it's going to be a fight. It's going to be, it's going to be exhibition where they show Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, let me tell you something. I seen him working out in the gym not a couple of weeks ago, and the guy can still punch. And he's still fast like he used to be. So I'm glad they have the stipulation that, I think they have a stipulation where he can't knock this guy out. That, for the safety of Paul, it's best for him to go in there, give the fans something to look at, something to see, so he can go home at the end of the night.
So
go home instead of going to the hospital.
Right. You think Iron Mike can still go some rounds though? He did with Roy Jones a few years ago.
Yeah, he can go 3-4 good rounds where he can really hurt somebody.
You said he was the hardest puncher that you ever reffed, I believe.
Yes, yeah, single punch.
Yeah,
him and Ernie Shavers, they're the hardest punches that I ever been in there with.
You refereed a Shavers fight?
Been in the gym with him, been at different fights, but no, I never refereed this fight.
Yeah. And I mean, what are your thoughts, Richard, on these kind of fights? And, you got the MMA guys now crossing over to boxing. Anthony Joshua just knocked out Francis Ngannou, who Mike Tyson been working with. Dewey Cooper laid him out in the second round. What are your thoughts on those fights overall, just as a boxing purist?
It makes the referee have to be really on his job. He's got to really watch those guys. We don't want to get nobody seriously hurt, So, there's a lot to do safety-wise when you got guys coming from other, sports, from other way of life and fight these professional fighters. These guys, they are trained and they know how to hurt you, and that's their job, is to hurt you. So it's got to be put together properly and make sure that no one gets seriously hurt, because as soon as one guy gets seriously hurt, it's over with. Ain't nobody gonna do it again.
Right. And you're no stranger to these kind of fights. It was an exhibition, but you did Shaq versus De La Hoya.
Yeah,
Shaq,
right.
What was that like with Shaq in their 7?
It was fun. It was a lot of fun, and that's what it's all meant to be. Fun for the fans, fun for the fighters, fun for everybody that is involved, But it's not no serious thing where somebody's supposed to get hurt.
Right. And not to end on a sad note, Richard, a couple of legends of the ring, guys that you've shared the ring with, Roberto Duran and Jeff Fennick, are battling some illnesses in the hospital. Not sure how serious it is. I think something with Roberto in his heart. Not sure about Jeff Fennick, but any words for those guys you'd like to pass on?
Oh, great. They were great fighters. Really great fighter. And, I'm a fan of both of them. and I hope and pray that, you know, God sees them through this illness that they're going through, and be strong like they always been, and you know, get well.
Beautiful words, Richard. I'm sure they'll see this and appreciate it. I've seen you around both these guys, and you know, I know how much they respect you and what you've done for the sport. But appreciate you doing this, Richard. I know it was kind of last minute. I know you're probably watching March Madness and, you know,
Yeah.
whatever else, but I think it's good just for the fans and boxing people to hear, you know, one of the best fights of all time, and to kind of set the record straight from, you know, from what you see in there and what your job is, safety first.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Keep up the good work, and I'll be reading all your articles.
All right, Richard. Thanks, my friend.
Thank you.